Well, it's time for some Monday motivation. Now, we're joined by a man who's made it his career to motivate people and businesses to achieve greatness. He's worked with some sporting greats like Chad le Clos, Pierre Spies, and also played a pivotal role in bringing the Lions rugby team out of relegation in 2013. His new book is called Making Sense of Nonsense, and it offers practical, motivational advice, giving hope in times of despair. Welcome to Expresso Myan Subrayan. So good to have you on the show this morning.
Great to be here.
Oh, I feel like we need you. We need your insights. But before we do anything else, let's talk about this nonsense of what you speak in your book, Making Sense of Nonsense. What is the nonsense?
Well, you know, the nonsense is things that don't make sense. Sometimes we go through trials, tribulations, situations like, problems in the economy, situations in the political hemisphere, and just, situations where you feel that you just don't have control over those things. It could be even more personal. It could be a sickness, illness, financial troubles, relationship problems. So those sort of things, when you reach a place where you realize, hey, I don't know, I don't have the answers.
Yeah, I think that we are living in very challenging times in South Africa at the moment, with our economy, with the downgrades, with the water situation in the Western Cape. How does one deal with it? Is it just a matter of blocking it all out?
Well, you don't want to be the ostrich with the head in the ground. You want to acknowledge it, but at the same time, it's about understanding that, focus on what you can do, not on what you can't do. Because that's where stress comes. People get stressed out when they focus on things that they have no control out of. I have an acronym that I call CTC. Control the controllables.
Wow.
You can't stop the birds from flying above you, but you can certainly stop them from making a nest on your head.
True story.
Yeah.
You also can't stop them from dropping something, but that's a blessing, I hear. You know what? We're approaching the festive season, and you and I were kind of talking in the break, and you were saying that this is actually the time where people sink into the most despair. For anybody that's watching right now and who feels a sense of, hopelessness, or feels like they have lost control, what would your advice be to them?
Well, again, just the fact that, stress is a perception. Stress is something that you bring upon yourself, because what stresses you out may not stress me out.
Yeah.
So it's quite subjective in that side of it. And I mean, the advice I would give is to really understand what the whole festive season is about. And a lot of the pressure that comes upon oneself comes from peer pressure, trying to fit into society. And for me, it's about being comfortable in your own skin. Understanding that, I may not be able to live up to the expectations of others, but, just being you and being comfortable in the fact that, this is who I am, this is what I believe in, and not trying to outdo others and try to keep up with the Joneses and all of that. And I guess that's where, around the festive season, people are always trying to outdo others. And it's just about coming to the place and understanding, what, I am me, and there's only one of me. I'm unique, I'm valuable, I'm loved, and irrespective of what I get or don't get, I'm still going to continue.
I love it, and I love that we can continue with you after the break. We're going to be chatting with Myan Subrayan a little bit later on. His book is Making Sense of Nonsense, and if you feel like you live in a world that is filled with nonsense right now, you might want to grab and get your hands on that. But we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Oh, very motivational Monday indeed. So let's continue on that same trend. It's time for some more Monday motivation, and we're privileged to be joined by a man who has made it his career to motivate people and done it very successfully, likewise in business, to achieve greatness. He's worked with some sporting greats as well, like Chad le Clos, Pierre Spies, and has also played a pivotal role in bringing the Lions rugby team out of relegation back in 2013. They are now on fire, definitely one of the informed teams. I'd love to know how that journey came about. And his new book is called Making Sense of Nonsense, something we can all relate to. And it offers practical, motivational advice, giving hope in times of despair. And boy, ain't there a lot of that going around in the world at the moment. Welcome once again to Myan Subrayan. Myan, thank you so much for joining us. It is a crazy old world that we live in, especially when it comes to sport. We are seeing the psychology of sport play out on a very grand scale where the Springboks are right now. But I was there when the Lions were at the lowest of the low, and was lucky enough to have a front row seat as they emerged out of that. You played a pivotal role in that. Talk me through your relationship with the Lions. What team did you find back in 2013?
It's so funny because, I caught up with the former CEO, and Manny Boyson, and we had a good old laugh because he said, "Myan, remember, things were so bad that the air conditioning wasn't working." And there's all these, in a room of 45 guys,
Big
smelly,
guys.
hot, typical Johannesburg midday. And that's the guys. That was the first meeting with the Lions. And, the reality was that, they lost their sponsors. They were in trouble because there's a lot of uncertainty for the future. They didn't know whether they were ever going to get back in. And then the headlines were banging them really, down and out. They're not going to come back. And here I was invited to speak at Coach Johan Ackerman's church in November 2012. So it wasn't like I applied for the position. And after the talk,
Providence.
after the talk, he comes to me and he says, this is where we're at. We need some motivation. Can you help us? And, the rest, they say, is history.
And an unbelievable turnaround at that. But I think in the darkest times, there is an opportunity to turn things around. It gives you that golden opportunity. And this kind of ties in, I would imagine, to the name, the Afrikaans title of the Afrikaans edition of the book, which, as you say, is very similar, almost the same book, but obviously slightly different. Tomatistraat. How did that name come about?
I learned in Afrikaans in school that when an Afrikaner person is in trouble, they say that, hey, het in Tomatistraat beland. So when I started with the Lions, knowing where they were at and stuff, I joked to them, and I surprised them because I spoke to them in Afrikaans. I said, guys, you are in Tomatistraat, but don't worry, our Indian people like tomatoes to make curry. So you wait there in Tomato Street. I'm going to come and get you and take a few tomatoes home to make curry.
And what a curry you made. What a curry you made. That team has obviously gone on to amazing things. I'm going to focus on the three words that are on the cover of the book: rejection, direction, and resurrection. Why these three affirmations?
Personally, for me, this is a quick history, and I shared this with the Lions because what happens is that as a life coach, people obviously get the impression that you're all about success.
Yeah.
And I said, guys, I want to knock that out of the park right away. I'm not here to teach you to succeed. I'm here to teach you how to deal with failure. Because the reality, Graham, in life is that you're going to fail more often than you're going to succeed.
Every day.
Absolutely. But how do you deal with it? Because in a society where the pressure is always on success, you feel like you're let down, you feel even more depressed, knowing that you haven't made it in life, you haven't lived up to the expectations of others. So I'm saying, guys, you know what? From our greatest rejection can come our greatest direction that can lead to our resurrection. Very quickly, I had a business in 2000, sold the business, went to New Zealand on the basis that I'd live off the sale of the business, get there, and the guys that bought the business didn't pay me. And now I'm there with my wife, my 8-month-old daughter, and everything is gone south. So what do? But from that rejection comes the direction where I moved into the speaking, the writing, and the life coaching. Because at the time I was an accountant, a financial broker, and through that rejection came the direction where I am now. Two things that I hated growing up in Durban was Afrikaans and rugby. And now, and now I'm known as the Indian Boertjie involved in rugby. This is my third Afrikaans book. So again, it's just to encourage people that those times when it seems to be nonsense, allow it to work its way. Look at what is available, the opportunity and the direction. It may not be what you wanted because, my teachers as well, they get shocked. I believe my Afrikaans teacher is rolling in his grave because I was always bunking classes, looking for every excuse to get out of the class. And now I've written my third Afrikaans book.
I absolutely love it. Congratulations, sir. And thank you so much for the influence that you're having as a rugby fan, not just on rugby, but we really love the sound of the book and we've loved connecting with you. Thank you so much for that. You've helped us make sense of nonsense this morning. Make sure you get your hands on either the Afrikaans or English version of this. It sounds like a validating and empowering experience.